once again, everyone. So, kind of in companionship with the videos I've been doing recently, I want to talk about invitations. So, real quick definition, what is an invitation? An invitation is when you are taking a guard or position and intentionally trying to get someone to take what you want. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. The simplest way would be just creating an opening. So, let's go over that real quick. So, quickest way to make an invitation. I want someone to attack on my left side, so I move my sword to the right side of my body. This indicates to them, hey, you have to hit me here, because if you go this way, my sword's in the way. Pretty straightforward. Everyone can kind of do that. The second kind of invitation you can do is to show weakness in a guard, or an exploited opportunity. So for example, let's say my tip is pretty forward, I've got a really good angle, so I'll draw my tip back, right? Something along those lines to make you think that you can blow through it, or, in particular, depending upon the system you're studying, give them an opportunity for something that does go through weak guards. An example of this would be winding, or an attempted stronger strike in, or things along those lines. The final sort of invitation you can get is an invitation by provoking, or laying something out. Basically, you're trying to look for a specific action. One of the ones you could do is, for example, laying your leg out to be cut. I'm giving them, hey, go for my leg. And you could even then combine that with a deeper strategy of, hey, you know that if you go for my leg, I'm going to pull it back and try to cut your head. So you're getting them already to be afraid of that head cut. So things along those lines. Another option would be you launch an attack, but you're launching an attack specifically with the idea of getting them to respond to it. You see this a lot with the rapier, that being starting a thrust but not actually finishing it. This is technically in the family of feints, but the idea being, I am inviting you to try and do your counteraction. And you can do this in a lot of ways. One of my personal favorites to do with inviting with that intention is to take a really powerful guard and start to move through it, but never actually complete that. I'm inviting you to deal with this, and I see what you do, and I work from there. Things along those lines. So, relatively straightforward, and there are a couple other ways you can invite, but what's the big deal? Basically, even though you know these things, you may still be struggling with actually being inviting. And there's kind of two major causes behind this. Number one is not being clear in your positions, giving almost too many options. Number two is being too stoic in your positions, and no one wants to attack you. So, let's look at those individually. The first one is not being clear. So there's a couple different things that could happen here. Number one would be you're not really locking down lines. So for example, let's take flute, right? A position that a lot of people take. If my flute's tip is over here, what really am I inviting, right? What really am I inviting right now? Okay, my tip's kind of hovering between flug and alber, right? What am I showing right now? Alternatively, you may have one where it's, okay, I'm clearly making an opening, but my distance is like, maybe I'm all the way back here, or maybe I'm doing something weird, right? Basically, if you're not clear yourself as to what you're trying to get them to do, odds are they aren't reading that either, right? Anytime you want to give an opening, it should be the intention of, I'm locking down this and opening this. Will you take it, will you not? And sometimes you're going to find positions wherein people won't take it, which leads into my second point. That being too scary in your guards. I suffer from this a lot, actually. For many, many years, I really wanted to get a crone catch in competition. I wanted someone to attack down so I could catch it in crone and then move into something. I really just wanted that to happen. And so anytime someone went up here or at the shoulder for a long period of time, I would step forward and open up my head. It's like, come on, I am laying it out here. Please, God, attack me. No one ever did. I did this for 3 years and it never happened. The reason being was because I looked too confident, because I was too confident. I knew that I could do it, so the second I took this position, the other person knew that I could do it, so they didn't try it. So, being too stoic in your guards is a tricky thing, and it's usually one you're going to encounter as you become pretty comfortable with the actions you can do out of them. So, for example, let's look at flug again. A good solid flug, I'm threatening you with that strong thrust, and you should always be worried about that. I've even heard my flug described as being very tight. To me, it doesn't feel all that tight, but point being, that's what people are perceiving. So if I want someone to attack it, I need to do one of two things. Either lessen my intent, which isn't necessarily always a good thing, and isn't even necessarily always possible, right? Because I don't want to start making my actions unclear like we talked about before, but maybe I could take it a little bit more relaxed, or things along those lines. Make it look more like I'm resting here, as opposed to loading. One option, but there are downsides to that, which should be relatively obvious. Second option is instead to take it at the right time. I like to refer to this as the Steam flash sale, right? Even though I know that I still have a ton of games in my library that I haven't played, it's the summer sale and I want to buy something because it's just too good of a price. That's kind of what I'm talking about in regards to a guard here. So, I can take Flug at the exact right time. That being, person right now is looking pretty confident, they're at the shoulder, I know they like their shield how, right? I know kind of what they want. Hey, even though you know that I probably know what you're gonna do, it's just too good. That little voice in the back of your head goes, I bet you I'm faster, or I bet you I can do it right. Or sometimes they even just feel like they've got it. And you'd be surprised. This happens more than you would think, especially once you start playing it with that mindset of flash sale, right? Just see if they take it. If they don't, no harm to you, right? The important thing is just be ready to fight out of it. So that's kind of two ways of getting around that difficulty. But there's more to this subject. So, in particular, when it comes to things where defense is a lot easier, because let's be honest, of the other two swords that I have here, rapier and backsword, it is very easy to not get hit with these weapons. They've got a huge guard on the lead hand. In general, you're keeping yourself much more back, and furthermore, all the action is happening farther away from you. It's not too hard to not get hit. These are why they're good swords. Not to say that the same isn't necessarily true with longsword, but people will find a way, right? So with this, if by default any guard I take it seems more defensive, how can I make opportunities, right? Again, there are a couple things. You can start playing around with how open you make yourself. So, my favorite is my outside guard, for example, right? If I want to invite someone to take it, maybe after a couple passes, I let my hand dynamically lower. I am still in a good outside guard, but I am feigning tiredness, right? This would be the idea of making this look more like a resting position, as opposed to a loaded position. This is actually one that you get directly out of the book. Another example would be changing the kind of guard I take. So I'm still covering the same opening, but I've opened up a new opportunity. An example of this might be the hanging guard, for example, right? Left side of my head is open, or top of my head. So I move more over into a left hanging guard that shuts down that opportunity, but my arm is a lot more exposed. Maybe you'll take that, right? And you can start building your playbook off of what people attack. Another example would be, again, to do some body position and give it more of that flash sale idea. So, hey, it's there. Okay, no problem. Hey, it's there again, right? And just start using your footwork and positioning to see whether or not someone will go, ooh, there it is, maybe I can get it this time. All sorts of opportunities. Now, another kind of way around this is, again, kind of on the same flash sale concept, but this is where you start to find particularly combinations. So one I like to use with the rapier a lot that illustrates this well is a high quarta, right? So, if you imagine for the moment that your sword is on this center line that I'm standing on, I give you the invitation by moving my sword to the outside of yours. So, your sword's here, presumably if you're right-handed, your shoulder is coming this way in relation to me. I move my sword to the outside and take quarta. The idea being that this does not look like a particularly threatening guard, but my tip is definitely still at you. You want to seize that and then exploit the fact that I'll have to turn over to guard myself, because I don't want to try and parry that with the false edge, right? I can, but it's still good for you if I try. So the second you go to seize that blade, small cavazione into that quarta thrust. This idea is more along the line, it's kind of in its new category, right? Rather than being flash sale, though it does certainly still have that, or it being, oh, I'm just resting here. It's much more along the lines of, I'm giving you something that you should win unless I do things correctly. This is almost feigning incompetence, but not quite. The idea there being that I've set the stage for us, I have given you something that you should, in theory, be able to take and win, but I have stacked the deck so that the second you start taking it, I know exactly what action I'm going to be moving on, and I don't give you the chance to act. So like I said, kind of in a category of its own and can overlap a lot with the other two examples I gave. But in general, these are kind of the things that I would recommend if you're having trouble working with invitations, or alternatively, if you're having trouble just, being inviting. There is one caveat to this. I don't recommend that you mess around too much with your feet and your stance. Distance, absolutely, all the time, right? Play popping in and out of distance, all things along those lines. Heck, even try moving parts of you into distance, but with the idea of then exploding off of it. However, what I don't recommend you do is try to feign incompetence or anything along those lines, or weaken your guards by standing more upright, or loading yourself is okay because you're more ready to go, but I don't recommend weakening your stance in a way that doesn't allow you to propel forward or to the side or backwards. This is because, as we talked about in the blocks video, or the periods video, a lot of this is going to come from your ability to control your core. If you weaken that, even if you're very fast with your hand, there's a lot less guarantee. So, by all means, feign with the arm, distance, and what you're putting forward, but keep your stance ready to fight. Because otherwise, it's better people not be taking my invitations, but I still be able to attack, than vice versa. So, otherwise though, hopefully that helps you all. Thank you very, very much for watching, and we'll go over some other techniques another time.